Today, we are presenting you the top 20 PC games of all time, ranked by their Metacritic score and user ratings. These are all games that had a big impact not only on some players, but also on video game history. Number 20. Unreal Tournament 2004. Unreal Tournament 2004 is a first-person shooter representing a fast-paced extreme sport of the future. The game, designed primarily for multiplayer gameplay, offers multiple ways of movement including double jumping, dodge jumping, wall dodging, and shield jumping. The game is part of the Unreal series, and more specifically, it is the sub-series started by the original Unreal Tournament. Number 19. Divinity Original Sin 2. Divinity Original Sin 2 is an RPG developed and published by Larian Studios. The game reached its 500,000 goal on Kickstarter in less than 12 hours. Some of the stretch goals were reached before they were even announced. In the end, all of the available stretch goals were met, with over $2 million collected in total. Despite the pressure, Larian Studios didn't fail to meet expectations, with the game receiving universal acclaim and selling over 700,000 copies in only 1 month. Number 18. Company of Heroes. Company of Heroes is a 2006 real-time strategy game developed by Relic Entertainment. Set during the Second World War, the game contains 2 playable factions. Players aim to capture strategic resource sectors located around the map, which they use to build base structures, produce new units, and defeat their enemies. In the single-player campaign, the player commands 2 US military units during the Battle of Normandy and the Allied liberations of France. An iPad version of the game, developed and published by Feral Interactive, was released in February 2020, 14 years after the initial release. Number 17. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt. The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt is a 2015 action role-playing game developed and published by the Polish developer CD Projekt, and is based on the Witcher series of fantasy novels by Andrzej Sapkowski. Development began in 2011 and lasted for 3.5 years, while voice recording took more than 2.5 years. The writing was infused with realistic aspects such as moral ambiguity, in an attempt to avoid simplification, impart authenticity, and reflect Sapkowski's novels. Central and Northern European cultures form the basis of the game's world. Number 16. Sid Meier's Civilization 4. This is the 4th installment of the Civilization series. It was designed by Soren Johnson under the direction of Sid Meier and his video game development studio, Firaxis Games. Civilization 4 has sold over 3 million copies by 2008 and won multiple awards, including several Game of the Year awards. Its title song, Baba Yetu, is the first piece of video game music to win a Grammy Award. Number 15. Diablo. Developed and released by Blizzard Entertainment in January 1997, the player controls a lone hero battling to rid the world of Diablo, the Lord of Terror. Beneath the town of Tristram, the player journeys through 16 randomly generated dungeon levels, ultimately entering Hell to face Diablo. The game's sales were expected to be modest, with expectations that the project would be a success with 100,000 copies sold. Ultimately, the game sold over 2.5 million units by mid-2001. Number 14. Grim Fandango. Grim Fandango is a 1998 adventure game directed by Tim Schafer, developed and published by LucasArts. Grim Fandango is set in the Land of the Dead, through which recently departed souls travel before they reach their final destination. The story follows travel agent Manuel Manny Calavera as he attempts to save new arrival Mercedes Meshik Colomar, a virtuous soul on her journey. Grim Fandango received praise for its art design and direction. It was selected for several awards and is often listed as one of the greatest video games of all time. However, it was a commercial failure and contributed towards LucasArts' decision to end adventure game development and the decline of the adventure game genre. Number 13. The Elder Scrolls 4 Oblivion. It is the 4th installment of the Elder Scrolls action fantasy series, following the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind and preceding the Elder Scrolls 5 Skyrim. Upon release, Oblivion was well received by critics and has won several industry and publication awards. It was praised for its impressive graphics, expansive game world, and schedule-driven NPCs, and is now considered one of the greatest games ever made. Number 12. BioShock Infinite. Infinite is the third installment in the BioShock series, and though it is not immediately part of the storyline of previous BioShock games, it features similar gameplay, concepts, and themes. The game follows its protagonist Booker DeWitt, who is sent to the airborne city of Columbia to find a young woman, Elizabeth. The two become involved with the city's warring factions, the nativist and the elite founders that rule Columbia and strive to keep its privileges for white Americans, and the Vox Populi, underground rebels representing the underclass of the city. Within 2 months of release, it sold over 3.7 million retail copies, and has since sold more than 11 million copies overall. Number 11. Quake. The successor to ID Software's Doom series, Quake built upon the technology and gameplay of its predecessor. Unlike the Doom engine before it, the Quake engine offered full real-time 3D rendering, and had early support for 3D acceleration through OpenGL. In the game, players must find their way through various maze-like medieval environments, while battling a variety of monsters using an array of weaponry. Number 10. Sid Meier's Civilization II. Sid Meier's Civilization II is a turn-based strategy video game in the Civilization series, and developed and published by Microprose. It was released in 1996 for the PC and later ported to the PlayStation by Activision. Civilization II was a commercial hit, with sales around 3 million units by 2001, and has won numerous awards and placements on Best Games of All Time lists. Number 9. Grand Theft Auto Vice City. Grand Theft Auto Vice City is a 2002 action-adventure game developed and published by Rockstar Games. Set in 1986 within the fictional Vice City, based on Miami, the game follows mobster Tommy Vercetti, following his release from prison. After he is caught up in an ambush drug deal, he seeks out those responsible, while building a criminal empire and seizing power from other criminal organizations in the city. Upon release, Vice City received critical acclaim, with praise particularly directed at its music, gameplay, and open-world design. However, the game also generated controversy over its depiction of violence and racial groups, sparking lawsuits and protests. Number 8. Mass Effect 2. Developed by BioWare and published by Electronic Arts, Mass Effect 2 is the second installment of the Mass Effect series, and a sequel to the original Mass Effect. The game takes place within the Milky Way galaxy during the 22nd century, where humanity is threatened by an insectoid species known as the Collectors. The player assumes the role of Commander Shepard, an elite human soldier who must construct and gain the loyalty of a diverse team and stop the enemy in a suicide mission. With the use of a completed saved game of its predecessor, the player can impact the story of the game in numerous ways. Number 7. The Elder Scrolls V: Skyrim. Skyrim was developed using the Creation Engine, rebuilt specifically for the game. The team opted for a unique and more diverse open world than Oblivion's Imperial province of Cyrodiil. The game was released to critical acclaim, with reviewers particularly mentioning the character advancements and setting, and is considered to be one of the greatest video games of all time. Nonetheless, it received some criticism, predominantly for its melee combat and numerous technical issues present at the launch. The game shipped over 7 million copies to retailers within the first week of its release, and over 30 million copies on all platforms as of November 2016, making it one of the best-selling video games in history. Number 6. Portal 2. Portal 2 is a puzzle platform game developed and published by Valve, while all retail editions were distributed by Electronic Arts. Like the original Portal, players solve puzzles by placing portals and teleporting between them. In the single-player campaign, players control Shell, who navigates the dilapidated Aperture Science Enrichment Center during its reconstruction by the supercomputer GLaDOS. Since the release, it has been described as one of the greatest video games of all time by numerous publications and critics. Number 5. Baldurs Gate 2: Shadows of Amn. Like Baldur's Gate, the game takes place in the Forgotten Realms, a fantasy campaign setting, and is based on the Advanced Dungeons & Dragons 2nd Edition rules. Development began in January of 1999. BioWare set out to improve upon the first Baldur's Gate in every way possible. From a list of constructive criticism, compiled from the suggestions of fans, reviews, and internal suggestions, a list of features to be added to the game was distilled and later implemented into the game. In 2019, a sequel, Baldur's Gate 3, was announced by Larian Studios. Number 4. BioShock. It is the first game in the BioShock series. The game's concept was developed by Irrational's creative lead, Ken Levine, and incorporates ideas by 20th century dystopian and utopian thinkers. The player guides their protagonist Jack after his airplane crashes in the ocean near the bathysphere terminus that leads to the underwater city of Rapture. Built by the business magnate Andrew Ryan, the city was intended to be an isolated utopia, but the discovery of Adam, a genetic material that can be used to grant superhuman powers, initiated the city's turbulent decline. BioShock received critical acclaim and was particularly praised by critics for its morality-based storyline, immersive environments, and unique setting. Number 3. HalfLife. HalfLife is a first-person shooter game developed by Valve and published by Sierra Studios for Windows in 1998. Valve co-founder Gabe Newell said the team aimed to create an immersive world rather than a shooting gallery. HalfLife received critical acclaim for its graphics, realistic gameplay, and seamless narrative. It won over 50 PC Game of the Year awards and is considered to be one of the most influential games of the first-person shooter genre, as well as one of the best video games ever made. Number 2. Grand Theft Auto 5. The game's development began soon after Grand Theft Auto 4's release and was shared between many Rockstar Studios worldwide. The development team drew influence from many of their previous projects, such as Red Dead Redemption and Max Payne 3, and designed the game around 3 lead protagonists to innovate on the core structure of its predecessors. Extensively marketed and widely anticipated, this game broke industry sales records and became the fastest-selling entertainment product in history, earning $800 million in its first day and $1 billion on the first 3 days. It received widespread critical acclaim, with praise directed at its multiple protagonist design, open world, presentation, and gameplay. It is the second best-selling video game of all time, with over 120 million copies shipped, and one of the most financially successful entertainment products of all time, with about $6 billion in worldwide revenue. We finally arrived at the top. The number 1, the greatest game ever made, HalfLife 2. Development lasted 5 years and cost $40 million. Valve president Gabe Newell set his team the goal of redefining the FPS genre, focusing on advanced physics systems and non-player characters. A year before release, a hacker stole an unfinished version and leaked it online. Luckily, this didn't stop the development team from making a masterpiece. HalfLife 2 received acclaim for its advanced physics, animation, sound, AI, graphics, and narrative. It is therefore claiming the title of the best PC game of all time. This is everything for this video. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and we'll see each other in the next video. Bye!